This is the Armstrong and Getty Show.
There is power and money in dividing us by race and ethnicity. There are a lot of people
Do you think that's what
whose jobs have to do with constantly grouping us by race.
I know that drives some of it, a lot of it. I know that's what drives Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton.
And the National Department of Education.
Well, a lot of people in the government, they think they're doing good by it. They think that they're making the world better this way.
Yes, they do.
I think that drives a lot of it. I think they're crazy.
But at the same
and
time,
stupid and bad people.
If we realize they're crazy, stupid, and bad people, and it's counterproductive, they all lose their jobs. And we're talking thousands of people, millions of dollars worth of bureaucracy. You can't separate it. The greatest intentions in the world might be the explanation for a giant, expensive bureaucracy. But it will survive whether it's needed or not. It's just the nature of the thing.
But take this story beyond the schools, because that's just, to me, the headline is the government has decided they're now going to assign us a race.
Right.
So that's going to start happening all the time.
We will be labeled whether we want to be or not.
You go and fill out
for our own good.
You're going to go get a home loan, and they have that little thing on the form that says, what race are you? And you say, I decline to state. I'm not going to get into that.
That's not important.
Their government is going to say, no. We need to assign this to you. So a government official will come out and look you over and say, I don't know. I think you got some black in your background somewhere.
Right. And then put the
Hispanic or whatever
badge on your jumpsuit. Make sure you're properly identified by race.
What the hell?
It's unbelievable. Here's Brennan in San Francisco. Hi, Brennan. How are you?
Hey, guys. How you guys doing today? First of all, you guys are doing God's work. You guys are absolutely amazing. Love you.
Yeah, it's funny that we should work for Clear Channel doing God's work. There's irony there.
Seriously doubt we're doing God's work, but appreciate it.
What's on your mind, my friend?
Well, this thing about assigning race already exists right now in the mortgage industry. A couple years ago, the Community Reinvestment Act of 1997 basically was committing banks or making banks make commitments to giving loans to lower income individuals. And the only way to really track that is by, gathering race data, information, et cetera, et cetera. So at first, these laws were really lax, that they didn't have to really check the box, or they can check the decline to state box. But right around 2004, something actually changed in the whole thing, that, there weren't enough loans being given to disadvantaged races. So the government started to enforce that, and then required that mortgage brokers and loan officers, that if they were doing a face-to-face interview filling out that application, that if the person declined to state their race, they would have to make their best guess and assign a race.
And if you're one of those loan officers, do you tell the person that I'm required to guess your race, so I'm now going to guess and write it down, or do you do it secretly?
There is no requirement to notify the applicant.
Wow.
And a lot of things went into the housing disaster, but one of them was when Barney Frank and his buddies got the power in the House of Representatives back. One of the first things they did was say to banks, we're going to check your ratios. We're going to check them every month. And if you're not lending to enough minorities, we're going to ruin you. We're going to bring you to your knees. We are going to fine you so heavily, you're going to go out of business. And so I've talked to quite a few people who personally, first person in the mortgage business, will tell you that we were told, you got to write, if a black person comes in and they make $5 a week, you got to write them a loan. You've got to, or we're ruined. So
that is 100% correct. A lot of these banks were actually forced into making loans that they shouldn't have made. In the beginning, it made them a lot of money because they can sell really high interest rates, et cetera, et cetera. But, look what happened to the economy.
Yeah. Okay, all right. Thanks, Brennan. I don't want to get too much off on that tangent, but it's funny. The only way we can really track that we're giving loans to poor people is to take a look at the race.
You're either poor or you're not.
Meanwhile, the schools are saying, well, the only way we can really keep track of how we're helping out the kids who don't do well is to, take a look at race.
You're either not doing well or you're not.
Do I have to point out to you the unspoken message there?
But this idea of a government official assigning you a race is incredible.
By the way,
you're not allowed to opt out of that whole game.
To my shock and delight, listen to this. California refuses to force schools to rely on third-party observation for students who decline to state race. We're allowing them to report it's intentionally left blank. So, and again, this is to my shock and delight. California is saying, whoa, that's a little weird. Somebody says, I'm not stating, We got to let them not state. We're not going to have government officials assign them a race like the federal government is ordering the states to do. Holy crap. This stuff matters. If this doesn't scare you, it should. Here's Jason. Hello, Jason. How are you?
Hey, guys. How's it going?
Good. Talk to us.
I guess playing the devil's advocate and looking at the cynicism of it, I wouldn't be surprised if some of the school officials are saying, well, this kid here that declined to state his race, that scored very well on this test, we're going to put down the race for him, the race that we want to bring up in the test scores.
Sure, of course, absolutely. Clearly, if there is an advantage one way or another, and the school official gets to assign the race, at some point you're going to be assigning them in whatever way benefits you the best financially.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's just, obviously that would happen. I mean, if it's a tough call between, I don't know, that kid could just be white, he might be Hispanic. Well, if it's going to benefit you to call him Hispanic and he declined to state, you're going to call him Hispanic.
Right. Here's an interesting, they quote several of the students in this story.
The whole idea of somebody looking at someone else and deciding what race they are and writing it down is just, it's amazing to me.
Senior Candace, age 17, who identifies herself as white/European American, said it's important to close the achievement gap. By ignoring racial categories, it makes the problem worse because people can be racist and there's no way to quantify it.
She calls herself what?
White/European American.
Okay. That's pretty much most of us.
I think she's exactly wrong. I think she's 180 degrees wrong, and I think her intentions are absolutely honorable. It's my belief, having observed a lot of elementary school classes with a lot of races involved, a lot of ethnic groups involved, through quite a few years, that there is at times among especially more progressive people, if you have a kid struggling and they're a white kid, it's a question of helping a kid not struggle, figuring out whatever the hell has to happen. And if it's a kid of color in a lot of situations, it's, oh yeah, well, they're a black kid, and the black community, they got that situation, and we've got to be a little more gentle. You can't expect as much out of that kid because he's up against this, that, and the other. It is the tyranny, the horrifying racism of lowered expectations that, by the way, I feel free to say, and correct me if I'm wrong if you want to, Martin Luther King would have despised the idea of, well, it's a black kid, so, you can't expect him to get a degree.
Well, sure. And
you can't expect him to go to college and compete with the white kids.
Barack has talked about that sort of thing, too.
The tyranny of low expectations. And look what it's wrought. Look what it's wrought.
So you get a younger generation of people who want to get past this whole race thing, and the government won't let them.
Exactly.
That's what bothers me, is I think that the younger generation is on to something. They don't want to play that game anymore, but the government won't let them stop playing that game.
You look at that kid with dark skin in class. What do you expect? I expect you to get at least a C on a test. Look at a white kid. What do you expect? I expect you to learn. Sit down, shut up, and pay attention. Equality is a challenge as well as like a gift. It's a challenge. But Martin Luther King believed that everybody could rise to that challenge. Read the
Gold
read the
in your
text.
teeth, hat on sideways.
Looking like a fool with your pants on the ground. I'm afraid we've lost that. We've lost aspiring, and now we're just completely stuck on blaming.
Next time I need to get a home loan or something like that, they're going to assign a race to me. I'm going to hit the tanning bed for like a week.
And speak with some sort of vague accent.
Right.
I would like to apply for a loan.
That sometimes sounds Spanish, sometimes sounds French, sometimes
kind of Indian.
Sometimes Transylvanian.
Yeah. How much equity do I need? Just confuse the crap out of them.
Big terrorist attack by, is it Al-Qaeda or the Taliban? Or are they any different? In Afghanistan today. Marshall's News is coming up. You're listening to the Armstrong and Getty Show.
Will constantly be identified by their race. And if they ever utter the wish to be viewed purely and only as an American, federal officials will forbid them from doing that and identify them as black kids whether they like it or not. I have a dream. See, that would have been a crappy speech. Nobody would have liked that speech except the Klan. But that's the current activist progressive stance. The federal government won't let kids decline to state or just list themselves as American. They're asking state school officials to eyeball them and fill in the blank for them.